In the old Marseille Tarot, trump number 8 is called the Justice card. And it's a picture of a woman sitting in a throne with a lot of robes, brandishing a sword held upright, and holding in her other hand a pair of scales. When I'm giving a reading and the Justice card shows up, frequently what that is telling me is that it's time to invoke the divine law of restitution. And the divine law of restitution is ours to invoke. It is calling upon the natural balance of the universe. Something that has been taken or lost, stolen, we can call upon the law of restitution and we are restored. Whatever has been lost is then restored or its equivalent. This is available to everyone. Now, many people think when something is lost, it's just gone. When you think that way, you will experience it that way. But if you understand that you have the ability to call upon and invoke the divine law of restitution, you can set in motion the wheels of restoration and restitution so that whatever was lost or taken from you is restored to you or its equivalent. With all of these divine laws, when we invoke them, what we have to be careful of is that we don't get into directing the way that it needs to manifest, when it needs to manifest, how it needs to manifest, from whom it needs to come, etc. Because then what happens is that we are no longer operating within the divine law, we are operating within our own separated ego, trying to project and force a solution that we have concocted ourselves. As the magician, as the witch, as the practitioner, our job is to invoke and then stand back and let the restoration take place as it will. It's up to us to invoke, though. Remember, nothing happens all by itself. We have to be the catalyst. And this is true with any kind of magic. Sometimes people say, just let God's will be done. They don't ever get involved. And then they wonder why nothing ever works for them. Well, God's will is always being done, but part of God's will is that we have our free will. One of the qualities of the infinite is responsiveness. To expect the light to turn itself on is silly. Why doesn't the light just turn itself on? How come my computer doesn't just start? How come the search engine doesn't search for what I want all by itself? How come my car doesn't just drive me somewhere? How come my piano doesn't just play itself? We have to be the catalyst. When we need restitution, we have to call upon that law. We have to operate it. But then we have to allow it, once it's been turned on, to do its thing. You don't turn on the lamp and then start messing with the wiring, right? You don't turn on the stove and then start messing with the inflow of gas or the electricity, whatever kind of stove you have. The wiring is already taken care of. It will work, but you have to turn it on. That's your only job. You have to turn it on. But you don't have to mess with the operation of it. All of these divine laws work the same way. We have to invoke them, and then we have to stand back and let them operate through us and for us. If we have a situation where something's been taken from us, stolen from us, something has been lost, we have to call upon that divine law of restitution and allow that divine law of restitution to work through us to restore to us what was lost or its equivalent. Sometimes getting the exact thing back is not going to happen. It's just not the way it's going to work. But something even better is on its way. Something even better is on its way because we have invoked it. You know, whenever you're working with any divine law, that it's working based on how you feel after you've invoked it. If you've lost something, or you feel a sense of loss or betrayal in your life, and you call upon the law of restitution, you know it's working because you feel better immediately. You feel better, you have a sense of peace about the situation. You have a sense of certainty about the situation. And if you don't have that sense of peace, and you don't have that sense of certainty, keep invoking until you do. Keep calling upon that law until you do. That's your job, And you know that you have done your job when you have an emotional response of peace and certainty about the situation. Now, there are many laws in dealing with any of them, and in this case specifically today, the law of restitution. When we invoke, we are utilizing our power of choice. We are choosing a different outcome than the one that we are experiencing at the moment. That's the heart of magic, isn't it? We will something and reality conforms to our will. But people misunderstand and they think that their will means that they have to come up with the end result themselves. They have to come up with the ways and the means themselves. That's not where your will is. Your will stops at the invocation of the divine law itself. The divine law, whatever you're invoking, is an intelligent power that knows the ways and means that you don't understand, that you don't have the capability of understanding within your limited perception at this particular time in your life. When we get to the point in our development where we are at one with our higher self, when we are truly at one with our soul, we will have a broader sense of where we fit and the ways and means. But by that time, we won't really need to invoke anything because we'll already be in perfection. In the meantime, we have to understand we are limited by our perceptions. We are limited, and we don't know the ins and outs of the universe. And that's okay. It's absolutely fine that we don't know. But if we understand that we don't know, then the wisdom lies in letting in the law that we need to invoke in order that it takes over and provides the ways and means that we can't provide for ourselves. When you invoke the law of restitution, it's not, I'm invoking the law of restitution and therefore I need these things to occur in this way. That's not an invocation. That's a type of sorcery. And it's not that sorcery is bad. Don't get me wrong. I'm not saying do not ever use sorcery, but understand the difference between alchemy and sorcery. Sorcery is you imposing your personal will upon a situation. We are coming from a different point of view when we're invoking, because when we're invoking, we are recognizing that if I knew how to have things work out better for myself, they'd already work out better for myself. If I knew what to do, if I knew what was going to make me happy, I'd be happy. I'd be there. So in invoking, you're saying, I don't know. I'm not happy. I do feel loss. I am in a situation where I feel like something's been taken from me and I need it restored. I need restitution. So I'm calling upon the divine law of restitution to take care of this for me. And it's fine to say, I want this and that and this and that, but always complete it with, or something better, or its equivalent, so that you can open your mind to the fact that there are ways that you can have your needs met that you've never even thought of, that's never even crossed your mind, that you didn't even know was a possibility, and you'd have no way of knowing that that's a possibility because your mind is not expanded enough at this point in your development to be able to understand those things. And that's okay. That's absolutely fine. There is a part of you that's connected to a higher wisdom that does have all of the answers, that does know how to get all of your needs met, that does know how to restore the things that have been lost in a wonderful way. And if you can do your job, which is invoke, and then step back and let it happen as it will, you are then allowing for major shifts and changes to happen for you that you would never be able to have occur within your own small, limited understanding of the situation. If it were up to you to just figure it out, you could get something done, but you couldn't get something done on the scale that you're going to have it done when you invoke and then step back and let something happen in a way that you were incapable of perceiving. Restitution and restoration are the same law. So when something's been taken from you, you want payback. You want it back. And that's fine. That's restitution. In order that you be restored, that your situation be restored. But the great thing about all of these occult laws is that not only are you going to get back what was lost or taken, or its equivalent, but you're going to be better off as a result than you were before the thing happened. It's like one of those old game shows, right? As a parting gift, they give you a bunch of other stuff too. And that's sort of how the divine laws work, is not only do you get what you need, but you get parting gifts. And things are going to be even better than what they were before the problem occurred. And that's a really good deal. When we are working with any of these divine laws, expect that. When you are calling upon the divine law of restitution, not only expect to have restored what was taken or lost, expect it to be even better than it was before. Expect it to be even better. And you get to the point where when something bad happens and you remember to call upon the occult law of divine restitution, you say, oh, that's right. Well, in a way, it's kind of cool that this happened because I know it's going to even be better than it was when it started. It's not so much that you're grateful that somebody took it from you, but you're understanding that not only are you going to get back what was taken, but it's going to be better, and you're going to be better for it. That's the miracle of these occult laws. They have a way of working things out that things are better than they were even before the problem occurred. It's similar to how we were talking about the archangel Samael, who's the warrior angel. The thing about calling on an angel to fight your battles for you versus fighting them yourself is that the angel has a way of fighting a battle where in the end, everyone is a winner. Everyone comes out better because of it. And that's not something that we're capable of doing. When we fight a battle, there's a winner and a loser. When Samael, or that higher warrior spirit, fights the battle, it does it in such a way that everybody wins ultimately. Maybe not in the short term, but in the ultimate truth of the situation, everybody wins. Everybody's better because of it. And that's a wonderful thing. Sometimes when you're in the midst of the divine law of restitution, or if you're in the midst of a fight where you're calling on Samael, in the moment, you don't want them to be better because of it. You don't want everybody to win, but that's okay. Samael understands that, and the divine law of restitution understands that as well. You can be assured that you're going to be taken care of. And that's a wonderful way to pull yourself out of the situation. Just pull yourself out of the situation. I had something happen very recently where I was having a problem with one of my websites. And I was so angry and so frustrated because I wasn't getting what I needed from the company. And I felt very unheard. I felt very gaslit about the whole thing. Like, well, it sounds like it's your problem. No, it's your problem. It's your product, not mine. You have the problem, not me. And I was going around and around and around. And then I just forgot, oh, wait, I could have the divine law of restitution. Well, as soon as I remembered to do that, invoke the divine law of restitution and pull back, step back, and let it work through me, everything started working. I got a nice apology from the people. We're friends again. Everything's working. But when it was just me fighting against this monolithic company, and I knew I was never going to win. It was just me against the company. And I felt very defeated. I felt very powerless. Most of you are too young, but back in I think it was the 70s or maybe the early 80s, there was a product called V8. And they used to have this commercial where somebody would hit the palm of their hand against their forehead and say, wow, I could have had a V8. And it was the same kind of thing when I was going through this thing with my website. I could have had restitution. And I called upon the divine law of restitution. It all just started to work out in ways that I didn't understand, in ways that I could have never come up with. And so I was so grateful that I already knew about this and that I remembered to use it. And I felt like, wow, if I didn't understand how to invoke the divine law of restitution, I'd still be going around and around and around with these people. So use it, recognize it, know that it's there for you. But in order to utilize it, not only do you have to invoke it, but then you have to let it work through you. You have to step back. You have to pull back and wait. And you'll be guided. You'll be shown. If there is something for you to do, you'll be shown. It'll be obvious. But you're not taking the bull by the horns anymore. You're not trying to force a solution anymore. You're saying, whoa, wait a minute, hands off. Let the divine law of restitution work through me. I've done my part. I've done the invocation. That's what a magus does. A magus invokes. It calls forth the power. It is the catalyst for the power. It turns on the lamp. It turns on the stove. But it doesn't mess with the wiring. It doesn't mess with the gas flow. It just lets it do its thing. You call upon the divine law of restitution, and then you step back and let that restitution happen. You step back and allow yourself to receive that which you've invoked. You don't invoke something and say, please help me, please help me, please help me, and then don't let it in. You invoke it and you let it in, and you trust that the intelligent force of the power that you've invoked knows what it's doing. If it didn't know what it was doing, then why would you invoke it, right? So you know that it's an intelligent force that understands things better than you do. That doesn't mean you're stupid. It just means that you're limited right now, and that you don't need to stay limited. And the way that you don't stay limited is by letting it work through you. You don't have to know the ways and means. You don't have to know how it's going to work out. You don't have to know all the people that might have to cross your path that you didn't even know existed before. You don't have to have knowledge of all of that. You just have to know how to invoke, step back, and receive. Receive the benefits, receive the power, and allow it to flow through you. And then, like we said before, when you have to do something, when it's important for you to take action, it'll be obvious. It'll be very organic. It won't seem like a big deal. You'll know exactly what to do and how to do it. Like you turn on the gas and then you start cooking, right? You turn on the light and then you start reading your book. It's obvious. It won't be a big mystery. But you do need to allow that force to work through you unimpeded, without your small will gumming up the works. There's two different kinds of willpower. There's the will of the small will, that's the limited ego mind that thinks it knows everything but knows nothing. It only knows based on what its senses are reporting to it. And then there's the will with a big W, which is your true will, which is at one with the entire universe. We want to invoke that big W will and pull back on the small w will and allow the big will to work through us. And we do that by invoking whatever aspect of that larger will is necessary in the moment. And in this particular case, we are invoking the divine law of restitution. Now, there might be other things that you need. Maybe you don't need restitution. You need something else, and you'll invoke that law. Maybe you'll invoke the law of prosperity, or maybe you're going to invoke the law of love. Maybe you're going to invoke the law of soul or spirit, or one of those other qualities of the infinite. When I invoke one of these laws and step back and allow it to work through me, it never ceases to amaze me how it works. It's never commonplace for me. Even though it works again and again and again, it's always like, whoa, look at that. It just always blows my mind how well it works, even though I know it's going to, even though I have a huge track record with these laws, but it never ceases to blow my mind. And I love that. I love having my mind blown by the laws of the infinite. It's a wonderful place to be, where you're just constantly in awe of the power and the majesty of these laws. This intense intelligence that has not only an ability to restore or to correct whatever is wrong, but to do it in such a way that's so personal to my situation and what I need. It just is amazing to me how personalized these laws are. And it's not just for any one person. You don't have to be an advanced magus to work these laws. You just have to know that they're there. You don't even have to know what they're called. If you have a problem, there's a law that can compensate for it, and it won't misunderstand you if you call upon a law that maybe isn't normally called that. Say you're sick. I call upon the divine law of health. Whether or not that's normally what it's called, who cares? The infinite understands what you're talking about, but it won't come in unless you're inviting it. So you call upon it. You invoke it. I invoke the divine law of health. I invoke the occult law of health, or the occult law of healing, whatever you want to call it. You're having a fight with somebody, I call upon the occult law of resolution, the occult law of peace. You can call it whatever you want. It gets it. It understands it. Because it's occult, you can't really name it anyway. So as long as you get an inkling that you need help on a certain level, call it what you will, and it'll understand. It's intelligent. It's not stupid. It gets it. In fact, it's just sitting there waiting. Gosh, I hope that they invoke me. It'd be so nice if they invoked me, because if they invoked me, I can help. But till they invite me in, there's not much I can do. It's a great way of thinking of it when you have a problem. Oh, that's right. There's an occult law just waiting at the ready. Whether I get the name right, it doesn't matter. I'm going to call on it. And it's going to then enter into my situation. And my job then is to step back and let it do its thing and wait upon the law to direct me if I need to take action, rather than running in and trying to do its job for it. The divine law of restoration is a very powerful divine law, and it's a very powerful way of dealing with loss. And we all have so much loss in our lives. I lost my mom not too long ago. Now, when I call upon the divine law of restoration, it's not that my mom is going to come back to life in her former body. I don't think she'd want that. I think she's fine where she is. But I am being restored. I am being restored. And I am having a better relationship with her where she is. When I call upon the divine law of restoration or the divine law of restitution, in that loss, I get a more visceral relationship with my mom. She's there all the time now. But if I didn't invoke that law, all I would be doing is sitting in my sense of loss. But the more I call upon that divine law, the more I'm aware of her actual presence with me at all times. She helps me cook. She helps me solve problems. She's there all the time with me now. But she wouldn't be if I was sitting in the loss and not invoking the divine law. Any kind of loss can be restored. Like I said, it's not always going to be in the form you think it should be. And it's always better than what you could have come up with on your own. It's always better. If you lost some money, somebody took a bunch of money from you. Boy, that's an awful thing when somebody maybe embezzled money from your company. What a horrible thing. You trying to deal with that on your own is very limited what you can do, but you can call upon the divine law of restoration. All of the money that was stolen from me is now returned or its equivalent. And you don't know how that's going to turn out, but you do know it's going to turn out. Maybe these people will be caught and they will be forced to repay you. Maybe there's another source of income that wasn't available to you before that all of a sudden opens up that restores that money for you. You don't know. There's no way of you knowing until it happens. But what your job is to invoke that divine law of restoration and keep invoking it until you get a sense of peace about the situation. Don't put up with anything less than peace and understanding, certainty that the resolution is on its way. Don't put up with anything less than that. And until you get that sense, you keep invoking over and over and over again. How do you invoke? Just by calling upon it. I like to call out loud with my physical voice. To me, that's the most powerful way. In my own words, you don't need any special formulas. I call upon the divine law of restitution. What was lost is now returned or its equivalent. So mote it be. That's all it is. Maybe you've made a huge mistake yourself. You messed up, and it's because of you. I call upon the divine law of restitution. I am free from the consequences of this mistake. All that was lost is now restored or its equivalent. Keep doing that until you stop feeling so guilty, or you stop feeling so afraid, or you stop feeling so bad. You keep it up until you get a sense, oh yeah, this law is working through me. I feel it. It's happening. And then you don't have to invoke it anymore. You just put it out of your mind and you move on. But if you start getting that sense again of like, worry or upset or anger or whatever, then it's time to start invoking again. You keep at it until you get that emotional response that all is well. When you get the emotional response that all is well, that's a sign to you that you are receptive to the powers of the law that you have just invoked. If you are upset, if you are angry, it's not that that's bad. You need to work through those feelings however you need to, but you want to get to the other side of them, because once you get to the peace and the certainty, that's when you know that the law is flowing through you clearly and that you can expect results. Don't accept loss. You call upon that law of restitution and you let that restitution work through you. And it will. It will in amazing, miraculous ways that you do not understand. And that's part of the fun of it. I wonder how this is going to manifest. I can't wait to see. The mystery of it is part of the fun. So allow yourself to work with this law and know that it's there for you. You can't overuse it. It's there for you to use. Thank you so much for spending some time with me today. I so appreciate you. Until next time, blessed be.